player. Dependable, loyal, reliable and respected. Top man.
Up away, Dyer again. Andy King, what a goal!
Leicester City are the champions. They are back in the championship once again.
Consistent, and then I'll go with determined. True professional, trustworthy,
Hard working.
confident and humble.
Near as far as King. Brilliant! Magnificent from Andy King. Well, it might reach Dyer. It does reach King. And a cheeky little finish.
Canny and sensible, way great. Football intelligent, resilient, intelligent.
Ticket tank welcome. A rocket reception for a team that has rocketed to the top on Boxing Day and stayed there ever since.
Hard work and loyal. Solid and professional.
Rich. Holding. King! Oh, Leicester have won it. He has picked the perfect time to get back on the score sheet.
Ultimate professional. Model professional. Model professional. Great professional. Model professional. Ultimate professional. The two I choose.
Here's Mahrez bringing down. They're lining up. 2-0. Andy King shows that eye for goal. The King from the dressing room in the King Power Stadium.
We've been released by Chelsea at 16, under 16, and we got him for a 6-week trialist period. Coming off the pitch at MK Dons, I can remember speaking to John Rudkin, and that was the game that really decided for us that we ought to have a look at this lad a lot more closely, because he scored a couple of goals, which is always good from a midfield area, and he seemed the right sort of person to bring in from a different club. We were maybe waiting to see what chink there would be in the armour, but there wasn't really one. He was really willing to learn. Obviously a great athlete as well at the time, and scored goals as well. And like I say, in the midfield area, that's quite an important factor that we hadn't really got in the group of players that he played in as a youngster.
But when Andy first came into the building, he had to get over that disappointment, as every young player that's been released by a football club has to. And Andy came into Leicester City with a real determination to show what he could do, and he's shown great qualities in his approach. His first real great memory was to see him win the Premier Youth League as a youth team player, to be part of that group that went on and achieved such great accolade in the youth team. But then to see him develop so well as a young professional, seeing him get his debut and then progress through the ranks and achieve so much over the years. He's also had a lot of great support along the way, because as any professional athlete will know, that there's a lot of ups and downs along the way, and his support base really has been fantastic behind him. His parents and his family have been there for him throughout his path so far, and I think it's great to see that along that journey that Andy's shared those rewards and achievements along with them as he's progressed.
He could always score a goal. He was good at breaking forward, but he could also retain possession. He was intelligent, and he showed all the traits of being, a really, really good player. And right from the off, he was what I call low maintenance. I don't think he's ever been late. I don't think he's ever had a bad training session when I had him. He has some better days than others, obviously, but I can never ever remember him not really putting it in training. Always respectful, always bubbly around the place, and he's showing his loyalty to the club, because it is his club. and he's been a fantastic servant for Leicester City Football Club.
The fact that he was able to come up here, I think at 15, stay in digs with all the kids, impress straight away, and fit in so quickly. 2 or 3 years later, he was scoring that brilliant goal in the Championship and setting off his whole career. Just says a lot for him, and you just got to think about the number of players who don't make it after being released by big clubs to understand the mental strength of those that do.
I played with Kingy right at the start of this journey through youth teams, reserve football and into first team football. Kingy was always someone that you could rely on. He was a very consistent performer, pop up with several goals, and yeah, he was a joy to play alongside. I think at the time when me and Kingy and several other young lads were coming through at Leicester, it was a great period for us as young players to be coming through. The club didn't have the financial backing that maybe it enjoys now, and it relied sort of heavily on younger lads making game time, getting appearances in, and he always looked very comfortable within sort of a first team environment, very mature for his age, and I think it was something that he thrived upon that challenge.
I know he made his debut the year before I arrived in 2008. He made his debut the previous year in the Championship, but our relegation to Division 1 was actually probably, for his circumstances and where he was, an opportunity to break into the first team and make a real impact. And I remember in pre-season we were experimenting with formations and lineups, and he came in. He came under the radar, so to speak. He was not really at the forefront at the start of pre-season, and by the end of pre-season he was in the team, and that is. There's a combination of a player being ready to take advantage of an opportunity, which is like where players play, what club they play for, or the league that they're playing. It's about being ready to take an opportunity, and he did that. And then he was conscientious enough and really keen to develop his own game, and even people like Shaky. I think Shaky, I don't know what he said to you, but he had little bets with him each year about the number of goals he could come up with, and I think he bought him a bottle of champagne or something like that. So there's a bit of light-heartedness as well, but with players of his ilk in terms of the character, it's good to get a connection with as a manager or as a coach or whatever.
Now I remember when myself, Nigel and Steve first came into the club, and it was getting towards the end of pre-season, and we weren't quite finalised of who was going to be playing in midfield, but we were told about Andy King. He'd made his debut the season before as a young boy, and we'd had a look at him in pre-season, but not in really any of the games, and I think it was against Crystal Palace, and he started in a pre-season game, and we all came away from that, myself, Nigel and Steve, and said, this lad could be interesting. He's not bad, because you could see then that although he wasn't the frame he was now, he was a tall, skinny midfield player, but had a real knack of arriving in the box, can handle the ball very well. So I think, one of my first times to come across Andy was that in pre-season we gave him that opportunity and he took it.
I think Andy grew and took to it straight away, realised that he could play at the level, realised he could score at the level. So then you had Matty Fryatt scoring goals, you had Steve Howard scoring goals, you had Paul Dickoff, Lloyd Dyer, Matt Oakley and Andy King. And defenders would chip in, not me of course, but they would chip in, but he took to it. It was almost undroppable. It was almost a strange Leicester team if Andy King wasn't playing. I mean, he played most of the games because he had to, is what he brought to the side, and of course then we won promotion, and the start of a wonderful journey for him.
Yeah, well, I actually remember the first time I played with him. He'd obviously done really well at League One, so the club had won the league in League One. Pretty expected that he won the league. Then it was a big step up for him to the Championship, obviously still physically underdeveloped. And his first game was Swansea at home. Swansea were a good footballing team, and he struggled and he got subbed off at half time. And Nigel actually pulled me and said, listen, don't worry about him, he'll be fine, look after him, because he was just in the process of moving Matt Oakley out to the right and obviously trying to form me and King as a centre midfield partnership. So early days he struggled a little bit. He was quite gangly with his legs, but you see over the years physically how he's developed. He's a good specimen now. And then that season he went on to score a lot of goals and developed into a really good midfield player. Well, goal scoring midfield players are a rare breed. They're so important. You know, people always expect the strikers to score. And I think if you've got a goal scoring midfield player, the opposition starts to look at him midfield, watch his run, and then they take their eye off the strikers. So, like I say, in the mould of obviously Frank Lampard, who's a special player, the amount of trophies and the amount of goals he scored is phenomenal, but he's definitely in that mould of fantastic finisher. Time is totally opposite to me. I couldn't make time. My runs in a box. I was always in there too early, too late. My finishing wasn't great. But he complimented me well because he gave me the space in midfield to do what I done and try and get the ball.
This year, I think the commitment, the desire, the application was first rate. I can't ask a great deal more. At the moment, there's a lot of very, very disappointed players in there, and although the emotion's a bit raw at the moment, I'm proud of what they've achieved this season, our first season back in the Championship.
We were living in the same block of flats at the time, and I remember I was checking out to leave to go back, and he come over and his family there, and we just sat and had a long chat. And he's that kind of guy. He's always there, and he said, "Don't worry, you're only young. You'll have your chance again." And it was just nice that he made the effort to come round and have the chat. And that's what I mean. He was growing up before his time. He knew what was going on. He was always there to support us. So yeah, it was brilliant.
Well, I think it was